Alright, so we're gonna play Leisure Suit Larry 5. The gameplay is sped up considerably. If you watch the non-commentary version of my video, it is 5 hours and some change long. So Larry 5 is passionate Patti does a little undercover work. Now I have to say, having finished this game, it's odd to go back and play it because in your childhood you remember like all these games sometimes being the most awesome thing, and I remember Larry 5 being pretty cool because of the graphics. But by the time I played it, I learned it didn't hold up well. So we start with this scene here where they're talking about records and using subliminal messages to sell pornography, and that in current times, basically, pornography, the sale of pornography, I should say, has gone down because now there's cable TV and you can get everything you want in terms of pornography on TV, and that they partnered up with like rap music, thinking that the exposure of the type of lyrics that rap music has would help influence pornography, but it failed. And they talk about VCRs, but that didn't last long, because no one buys VHS porn tapes anymore. And why do it? Because you can search through channel after channel while you're at home, and that even the networks are getting into it now. And Mr. Big says, I understand the problem, I need a fix. And then we go to 6 months later with the board of directors, and they're talking about finding the sexiest woman in America. America's Sexiest Home Videos being a success. And this is where I feel like it's forced. They're not even trying. Instead of Vanna White, they use Vanna Black. It seems like Al Lowe just didn't put the effort that he normally did into his other games. They usually had more subtlety, more little like quick jabs. This just seems like an over-the-top attempt to make a game. So we get this whole bit about like the show that they have planned with champagne baths, and get them all set up, and they talk about how everyone's like, yeah, it's a good idea, that's a great idea, and Silas Screw-em-all says, but if we bring these women, they'll know that they're going to be sexy, and they're like, isn't that what we want? And he's like, nah, I changed my mind. I want a woman where she's so sexed up that she'd go for any man, anytime, any place, any loser. And they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's what we wanted. And so he talks about holding a blind audition. They counter with the idea that how do you do a blind audition for America's Sexiest Woman if you have cameramen? And that there'd be no way to make it a blind audition because obviously they'd be able to see the cameramen. And he said, we need someone so inept, so sexless, so lame, so unappealing that it would take the sexiest woman in America to do it, which I don't get that logic. Usually if you're quote unquote the sexiest woman in America, you can have anyone you want. But there you have it, whatever. So then we get to the part where we can now control Larry. And you see they're shouting for coffee, and there's a coffee maker, so you go grab the coffee. And this is, while we're still controlling Larry, this is technically still part of the intro, because once you grab the coffee, it just resumes control. And you go, here it is, with your best voice to suck up to him. And I don't even get it. Like, the glass just breaks and spills coffee on him. And he says, you're so stupid, why not even the sexiest woman in America? Ding! He says, wait a minute, I have an idea. And then he says, what's your name? Comments on your leisure suit. And then we go through a series of jokes where he gets your name wrong. So he basically decides to hire you to find them and record them in their natural habitat. And you're like, hey, I can audition 3 women. Sounds like dream job. So he's going to give you a mini recorder that you basically put in your pocket that looks like a pocket protector, which Larry says, hey, that's great. I've always needed another pocket protector. I'm a little bit ahead of what they're saying. There it is. And here he makes a stab at Rob Lowe, calls it the Rob Lowe model, which is a dated reference if you don't understand Google Rob Lowe and videotapes. He does warn you that the battery life on that thing is very low, so you know that you have to keep it charged. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you are playing this game. And it's weird, this game does offer to save your game for you, like give you times and say, hey, this is a good time to save. And then it even offers to password protect your save game. And throughout the game, like right now, Larry begins to wonder what he's doing, like how he's missing something in his life. So what we need to do is find the tapes that we're going to need, as well as like their profiles. So that's going to be the first thing we need, so we know how to get around. And as you can see, this room is full of tapes, but if you look close enough, you'll see some that actually kind of stick out a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here. This is like a little 8-track. So and you can change, it'll play whatever song you want to play in that while you're in that room. And so there's drawers, so naturally you want to search through all the drawers. And again, Larry's wondering what's going on. And you can see those tapes kind of stick out there like a light gray, and they're on the table specifically. So now we have the tapes. We want to wipe them. So you slide them through, and it talks about how it wipes it. You want to do that for each of the tapes. I don't even know why, because you can technically just record over them no matter what. So whatever. So we got the tapes. So you go there and you get the Arrow Dork card, which you're going to need in order to travel. And now it's a matter of going through all these drawers. And right there he talks about whatever happened to Leash Larry 4. Anyway, we're going to go through all these drawers and find out what we want. We need something from here. So move out of the way, and looks like there it is. So you take the resumes. And of course what you're going to want to do frequently in this game is look at everything. Kind of tells you what they like, and also gives you something that is in their profile, which is what you're going to need in order to travel. You basically show that item to the limo driver, and they'll take you to that area once you fly. So we should have everything we need now. We're going to go ahead and leave this area. And there's the company you work for, Porn Prod Corp. And we get in the limo. And again, he keeps thinking about this thing with Patti, and he doesn't know what's happened. So it's as if he's had amnesia. And meanwhile, we go back to Mr. Big. Or actually, this is the first time we go to Mr. Big, where they talk about this conservatives against something, some kind of campaign where they want to basically influence someone, and they're going to hire this corporation, being Kane. So Mr. Big says, let's give a little donation to them at Kane, because he's always into raising Kane. Lord. If you can't tell, having played this game and beat it, like I said, you can see the non-commentary version online. It literally feels like for the most part, 5 hours of my life I'll never get back. So you're probably wondering, why am I even going to listen to this for 2 hours, for 2 hours of my life that I'm not going to get back? And if you bail out, I wouldn't fault you, because overall I did not enjoy Larry 5, especially once I got to the end. And basically, I'll save it. So this part here with where Larry puts in the Aerodark card and you have these crazy symbols, you will need to have the copy protection in order to find out, because it'll say, New York at this specific time. And you look at the copy protection and it gives a series of symbols. So you will need that information. You can get that on allo.com. Or you can also go to my website, which is larrylaffer.net. Since Allo had it on his site, I'm assuming that it's not any form of violation to put it on my site that it's giving copyright information. Most of the copyright information, if you buy it on GOG and stuff like that, also has it as part of the package and stuff like that. So now we're at the airport. We've got our first ticket. We need to see where to go next. One of the things that we're obviously going to have to do is, if you try to talk to these women, they're not helpful. It's Miffy and Biffy, I believe it is. So if you go over here, you're going to see some phones and stuff like that. And we're going to go to the other side because at the other side there is an electrical outlet. And what we're going to need to do is charge our camera. So you just click on the recorder, plugs in, go to the camera, and this takes a while to figure out how to get this thing plugged in. I think you can actually, I've never done this, but I think you can actually do it in the inventory also. I think you can combine it in the inventory possibly. I've never tried that. I don't know if that's going to be easier than trying to click on the smaller icon. But once you plug it in, what you want to do is basically keep clicking on the camera, and it'll give you the percentage it's at. And once it reaches 100, you want to go ahead and grab it. And also, when you're at the airport, you want to look at all those signs. It kind of flashes by kind of quick. You'll get a phone number to use for limo service. And so we want to get to the VIP area. We'll go in there. And this is one of those things where it's a weird thing where also Allo decided to make it so you just wait. So for example, we've got the flight plans. It should just be that had I thought of this game and made it myself, which I didn't, obviously, I would have just made it so you click your flight itinerary into that, and that automatically starts the now boarding process. But in the game, it seems like it went by pretty quick, but it's because I fast forwarded. It's usually like you're sitting in there for like a minute. And there's a thing in there for the Aerodoric magazine. You want to grab that. And then you have a dream of Patti playing a concert in Greece. And being well liked, obviously, because it is Patti. But then it actually cuts to Patti, and she's playing at a small little bar. It's a grimy little scene. She complains about the manager. And she talks about how she has to deal with the club manager. And he talks about Julius not being pleased. And he basically says, Patti, I'm going to have to let you go. And he says, it's not me, it's Julius. And basically says you're not getting paid. It does make a call to Lisa Larry 3 when Inspector Desmond approaches, makes a reference to the KGB that had been chasing Larry. But as it turns out, he says, you're the type of woman we need. We're doing a big investigation. And he needs someone without family, basically, and someone who has looks, brains, and talent. And he says, in short, we need you to go undercover. He says, what do you say? You're taken aback, and you know what? You don't have a job, so why not? And then the following morning, Inspector Desmond basically breaks it down, says that he's convinced organized crimes have considerable influence in the entertainment industry. And he says, don't worry, most of the spies we use are amateurs, which is weird. And Patti thinks, well, this is my chance to get even at those same people who basically did not pay her and then fired her. And he talks about Death River Records in Baltimore, in subliminal messages, and rap recordings at a different place called K-Rap Radio in Philadelphia with the band 2 Live 2 Screw, which is obviously a reference to 2 Live Crew. If you don't know it, look it up. And he says, Patti, with your talents, you could easily do this. And we're just going to power through this. And basically, he says, all right, go ahead and meet some of the people. And all you have to do is click on some of the stuff, and they'll basically display what they do. The only thing that really even matters is that first one, the brazier, which he accidentally kills someone, but it's okay. And he has the super vibrator, which lands in his butt and makes him fly away. And if you click on that thing, it talks about the Zealand, which is Zealand, I believe. It's basically another Sierra game, so a little hidden reference. So he gets her contact number, which is 556, blah, blah, blah. Email with the password and a code name. So Patti is officially a part of this whole FBI investigation. I just feel like all of these are attempts to be way over the top. Like, I don't honestly feel like there was a lot of effort put into this. And I wonder if Al was basically forced into doing this, because he did mention that he had never planned for Leisure Suit Larry 4, and that's why we don't have a Leisure Suit Larry 4, and he went with 5. I'm wondering if he was planned and just didn't really put a lot into it. Because if he did, I feel like this game is missing something that the first 3 have. And I feel like 6 and 7 go back to what we would expect for Larry. It's just this game alone was something different. So anyway, they put a tracking thing inside, basically, so they can always know where she's at. And you can see some new stuff on the table, so you're going to want to pick those up and look at them. There's nothing in here to really click on, so we're going to go ahead and exit this area. And there's our limo. If you look around, if you try to do anything, it won't let you. So we're just going to jump in the limo. There is the little champagne that you're going to get, and you can use later. The game does offer several ways to beat some of the things, which I will give you to you. That was kind of cool. And you can call Damien, talks about PC Hammer, and then you get the fax. And that's the contact number that you call that you just got earlier from Mr. Twit. And if you roll down the window, he's like, hey, thanks for rolling it down, but I can't hear anyway. So what you can do is you can show him the record for K-Rap. And ironically, which makes this game even worse, is she dreams of the Donald, which is a reference to the Donald Trump dude who is, I won't even go into the politics of it to start a political debate, but it is a reference to that person. And when you switch back over to Larry, you come out of the airport and it looks exactly like the same airport that you walked into, which I get. They want to save graphics so they can just reuse stuff, but it'd been kind of cool if they did something different, even like reverse the 2 pictures and the chair and the coffee location, something to make it a little different, but nah, they didn't. Which isn't like a big deal, because it is sort of like a reference, I suppose, to Leisure Suit Larry 3, when every time he goes to get his hair cut, it always looks exactly the same. It's only the person cutting his hair that actually looks different. But at least something there was different. So there's a little thing for kids, and you have to click on it, and you end up getting a quarter, which is kind of a new low for Larry. We shouldn't have to charge our camera because it should still be at the full 25%. And you're going to want to look at that magazine to get points for something in there that explains how to thread something that you'll need later. So the number that you get is available on the signs. So you have to click on the various signs that are hanging above at the airport to get the numbers for the limos in that area. And you can see that someone left their book over to the side. The limo looks the same every time, so if you see something that looks different and out of place, grab it. So now we have a wad of money, and we also have a day trotter, which is basically plans and stuff like that. And we have credit cards. So we're at the hard disk cafe. And the game makes a call back to Loose Suit Larry 2, where you can go over here and you'll pee, but ironically it just says and he doesn't actually show the pee, at least like it did in Loose Suit Larry 2. And there's a musical box there. And if you play it, it sounds a little wonky. It says that it could be that the pins are off. So the magazine tells you how to basically thread something through there, which is going to come into play right about now. So you have to talk this time to this guy over and over and over and over. And the way Larry finally gets it is, again, you keep talking to him, he starts talking about this game of being a salesman. And you have to get the ticket first. And what you're going to do is insert into the machine. It says, hey, we found you. This is your section. So you can't get past that area yet. And what you're going to want to do is eventually just sit down. If you try to put it in here, it's going to say, nope, you can only sit there because you have a lowly clearance level. So we're going to sit down and look, that's the first person we want, which is Michelle. If you try to follow her, no can do. So what we need to do is take it and thread it through the music box, which who knows why a music box is at the Hard Rock Cafe when it's all computers everywhere else. But you put in the ticket and look at that, super user number 1 found. Now we have ultra clearance. So apparently super user 1 sits at a tray table. Again, I suppose similar to Loose Suit Larry 3, which is exactly what happened in Larry 3 when he finally got into that place to eat. So if you talk to her several times, she'll eventually let you go over there and hang out with her. And if you talk to her a few times, you'll get to know her. And she tells you about how she likes doing basically spreadsheet money type of things. And she goes down on her banana split. And then eventually goes down on you. So it talks about how you automatically just gave her the day trotter and stuff like that. And as you can see, I saved it as this game is too easy. And this was part of the problem that I had with this game. Is you're essentially, it's not even trying to figure out puzzles. It's essentially you have items that you're given and you're just moving through this interactive kind of game. There's no real thinking to it. You're just clicking on stuff without having to put any thought into it. Like I didn't have to give her the day trotter to progress right there. I just kept talking to her and she does her thing and down she goes. So this game was too easy is another thing that I have a problem with. Anyway, so you call the limo from that phone, and sure enough, the limo's there. Now, ironically, the girl describes her name as Bobby, which is the same name as the woman that your wife in Loose Suit Larry 3 leaves you for. I should say you're the wife you get in 2 that in the beginning of 3 she leaves you for. So we're back at the airport. Now we're going to go to our next destination. So we'll just hit Atlantic City. And I failed to look at the time. So let's try that again. And it does change every time. So Atlantic City this time is 10:30. So now I have the code. Get the boarding pass, get the card, and off we go. That was another thing I don't like. You'd click on going left, and if you did it at the far upper top or bottom, he would just stop at that spot instead of progressing to the next screen. You literally, for some of these screens, had to go through the middle area. So you can keep accidentally shocking Larry if you grab the plug instead of the device, which I don't get because you'd want to unplug something from the plug, not the actual device. But whatever. And if you try to get more quarters, it says you can't. So what you do to get back in there, you show them the VIP card, and off you go. Which doesn't make sense, because nowhere else in this airport can you go if you have a boarding pass. You know what I mean? It's just completely locked into this area. So where do normal people who are not VIPs go? And once again, as we fly, Larry falls asleep, and we see Patti having a massive heavy metal concert at the Taj Mahal. And we cut over to Patti, and she is now at the K-Rap studio, which if you read it together just says crap. I'll give it to you, at least that one was at least clever. And so we're inside this office and can look around a little bit. The receptionist chair is empty, so she's not here. So we need to move quick before she quote unquote reappears. So if you look at the code, there was a code given in the, if you look at the inventory item for this room. So what you have to do is 45954 or whatever. And you hear it unlock just as the receptionist shows up. Imagine that. So there's the letter opener in there. And there's a Xerox machine. That door is locked. So we definitely need to do something in this room, right? And nothing sticks out too much except for the phone and stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here. That does nothing, that does nothing. Oh, we can pick the table with, or pick the drawers with it. So if you do that, you can open it and it gives you a code, 54901. You're gonna wanna write that down. You can go in there and you get the files. Oh, and it talks about stuff. So you can go over here, make a Xerox copy. And then it gets jammed. So you get the stuff that you need. And boom, it blows up. So now you're covered halfway through with ink. So what you want to do is put the letter opener back. And if you, it's so weird, if you dig through the plant, you get a key, which is basically key to the desk. And once again, this is Allo providing you more than one way to do something, which I actually did like about this game. So you can use the letter opener to get inside, or you can actually use the key if you dig for the key. So you want to put the key back, put the letter opener back, and put the files back, because once you make a Xerox copy, you're good to go. And I like that. The concern is that he's going to know someone was in here. is he not going to know that someone was in here when he walks in and sees toner all over the wall? The copy machine is broken, toner on the computer. It feels like that is a very obvious sign that someone has been in his office and someone has made copies of something. So why even put the letter opener away? Why put the files away? Why even put the key away? So what we have here is something that looks like a shower. So if you go inside, I mean, at least you do get to see Patti get naked for a quick second. And you see her naked going down the elevator with everyone sticking their head out and whistling at Patti. So she gets to the bottom, and you can grab the clothes, and you change, and this is probably the worst part. It says, Patti, with that toner on you, you blend in here. So the blackface joke, I'm not sure if that's a good idea, but whatever. So the code that was in the desk drawer is what we're going to do now to get in the room. Clicking on it is a pain, but finally we get it to work and click and go inside. So there's no tape in here, so what we need to do is get some tapes, get some stuff recorded, and there's PC Hammer, who's behind some of the evil of K-Rap. So you grab a blank reel. Oh, and that's the other thing. So when you go down the shower, you lose all your inventory items, but don't worry, we'll get it back. So now where do we mount the meal? Ah, there we go. We mount it over there. And what we want to do is turn on the recording to record what they're saying. So I love that this game has like better graphics, but everything is kind of smushed in this room, so it's very hard to tell what you're supposed to do in here. So there was a lot of frantic clicking, and eventually, if you just do that, you're gonna find out everything you need. And at first, it's gonna be kind of quiet, so you have to turn it up until you hear something. So then you get to hear Too Live to Screw, and then you're gonna record what they're saying. But what gives it away is as soon as you start doing that, the recording light over the studio turns on. And PC Hammer, all he does is push a microphone in front of the door, even though the door opened inward. So I feel like that wouldn't have done anything, but it says you're trapped if you try to go out that door. So what we're gonna have to do is there's this big heavy duty mic. We're gonna have to make it swing or something. Oh, so what we do is we turn up the volume and have Patti sing, since she is a singer, and she hits such a high note, it breaks glass, and it makes another dated reference of, is it Patti or is it Memorex? Which is a reference to, is it Live or is it Memorex? Google it if you don't get the reference. So you call Desmond and you tell him what you've got. It says good. So now we're headed for the Shill building. And Patti drifts off to sleep. And now she's with a dude named Willie. I don't know what the Willie reference is, but we cut back over to Larry. And it's basically Larry has joined her at the Taj Mahal where she's had her show. And she's a snake charmer, if you know what I mean. And once again, the airport looks exactly the same. Even the people at the airport look exactly the same. So now we have slot machines. The power is set for 5 minutes, so we don't need to save. And so now it makes a reference, hey, it's just like Lucy Larry 1, and you have to find which one works, because apparently everything in here, everything else is usually broken except for one. And there's actually nothing to play there, you just get a quarter out of it. So again, look at all the signs that are hanging above the airport, because bam, there is your limo service for that area, which is Tramp Limo, which is probably another reference to a specific Donald person. I do like that sometimes when you come over to this scene, you can see the two, whatever you want to call them, stewardesses, and on that sign they make a reference to Carlos Escobar, which is one of the Sierra employees. There may be even other references in here that I might be missing to Sierra employees. I do know the Carlos Escobar reference because when he did pass, there was a huge thing by the folks at Sierra. So you go there, dial the number from the thing at the top, and go outside, and the limo is waiting. So now we show her where we're going to go next, and off we go. We're at the Tramp Casino, which again is a reference to that person. That's pretty funny. If you try to undress her, she says, I'll get my bouncer. And if you try to undress him, he says, oh, hey, all right, come back at midnight. So you want to talk to her, and she says, try to guess a number. And it doesn't matter what number you pick. And she says, amazing, what a coincidence. You get some silver coins. And you can only do it once. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in here with those silver coins. She says, just remember, it's not real money. Everyone in here, you just look at them, it gives the same thing. Try to talk to them, they won't talk. So you're just going to go find a slot machine that you feel lucky with. And just like the other Larry, here we go again. So max bet, save, and then restore if you fail. So we'll speed this up, so you don't have to put up with a lot of save restores. And what you want to do is every time, if you follow my theory, you want to max bet as high as you can, which I think is 100, and then always just bet the highest and just save restore. After you set a max bet, save, and then if you lose, restore. If you break even, just keep going. So it tells you right there, max bet is 100, even though I have over 100. So now it's just a matter of max betting 100 until we get like 500 or 600 coins. Alright, so we're at 580, so I'm going to cash out a significant amount that you will need. So you talk to the bouncer and it says it's 25 bucks. You're like, cool, here's some coin. So it's cool, have a seat. So you walk and it says, get ready for the wet t-shirt contest. Now what you want to do is make sure you look at her or talk to her, because if you don't, she just walks off. So because of that, what we need to do here is restore. So you look at her, she winks, and yeehaw. Can you talk to her and keep looking at her? So there's no way to get to any other part of this area. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go out to this pier. And you can look at all these different little areas. It reminds me very much of, if you've ever played Realms of Arcania, the way those buildings look. You can sit on the bench and suddenly people start skating by, so you're like, hey, what is this? So let's keep walking, Larry. Where are these people getting skates? Alright, well, not here. So let's keep walking. There's a place for more slots. I found the skates. So you could take that as a joke as I want to skate, or it's a reference to person's wife who is also named something similar to that. So if you talk to her, basically tell her you want skates. And she says, yeah, they're pretty much free, but I need like 250 down. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can give her some collateral if you want, or you can just give her some silver coin. And she says, fine, I'll take the silver coin. Cool, now you have skates. So again, this was something where there was multiple ways to kind of do this. And so now we have skates. So what you can do is just stand up and start skating around. And it seems random, but what you're going to do is keep skating around until, boom, you run into Lana Luscious. And you're like, hey, let's take a seat. And she says, sure. So there she is, and you talk to her. And basically, again, it's pretty much just all talking is all you need to do. And she says, come see me at the mud fight, bring some money, and I'll make it worth your time. So we're going to go gamble away again to get some more money after we return the skates. And you can't go in there just using skates. You have to actually take the skates off. And because you pay her money, she says, oh, you know what? It is scuffed up, so I'm going to keep some of it. So she gives you some of the money back, whereas if you use collateral, she just gives the collateral item back, I believe. And the collateral item being the camera, which, whatever. So let's go gamble again, get a little more money. Oh yeah, and make sure you want to swap out the tapes before you always record the next person. And you can tell which tapes you're using by actually looking at them. If you've recorded it, it'll have that person's name on the tape. So again, it's 25 bucks. And it costs 400 to get involved. So again, let's go back here and gamble. We need at least 400 credits, which is, if we paid them 25, we would have had 375, so we would have been just shy. So we're just going to get a little bit more. We'll just say 500. And there we go. Got it on the first try. Maybe we can try for a little more than 500 since we got it on the first try. And we'll just speed through this. And there it is. As soon as I said let's speed through it, we got 600. Now with 800, we should be good to go. So we're going to cash out. Go sit down. She comes out, says, come on, Larry, and you dive in. Now, it tells her, it goes by really quick, you want to grab the items that you see appearing on the screen. So the first time I did this, I missed a few. So We're going to do it again here, because I did forget to set the camera. And Larry's Willy did not perform, and he says it's because I've never performed in front of 900 people before. And it gives you a clue that says, thank God you weren't recording. So let's try that again. So once again, we pay him to jump in there. And now you'll see body parts appearing. You want to click on them. I don't even know if it matters if you do or don't. I think it ends it faster if you actually click on them faster. So again, Larry's thing doesn't rise. So we've done that now. So now we have 2 of the 3 tapes. So you basically tell him you need a cab, and you end up giving him the remainder of whatever silver coins you have. And he says thanks as a tip. So you ended up with 300 silver coins that we didn't use. And it's back to the airport for us. And meanwhile, they switches over here to the president of Kane, says, hey, we got a donation. We need to do something. Like, our benefactor insists that we do something. There's no strings attached, but he expects to see a positive influx. And he says, tell your boss he's made the right decision. Kane will help. Meanwhile, back in your limo, sir, we've arrived at your location. And now we only have one place left to go, which is Miami. So this will be our last destination for Larry. Which will mean it's also, we're almost done with Patti. So we're going to go ahead and go charge our camera because it is low. And again, just keep clicking on it and see what the strength is. 71, 79, 85, 88, 92, 95, 100. And once again, we wait in this room. Still don't understand why we just can't put our boarding pass in there and just be done. And once again, Larry begins dreaming, and he's dreaming of Patti. No surprise. The stick gets stuck in the water, and you take advantage of the night of love. But when we cut over to Patti, it looks like the limo driver was trying to get a little handsy. So she slaps him and says, you keep your hands to yourself. So now we're at the shill building for Patti. If you look around, there's not anything else you can really do but go through the sliding glass door. So you can look and you see the various supplies if you click on them, because they all look like they say something else, like Hell Industries and UQ. They all actually have something else, and there's a couple of references to other folks at Sierra here, including Allo Supplies. So if you try to get in, nothing works, but we know where we need to go. Now I've found out, because I like to go back and see what I missed, there was 2 ways to get around this as well. You can either look at that board and you know where to go, or if you show him the facts that you get, he'll also let you in and then goes back to sleep. There's a lot of stuff in here, and there's this weird glass maze. So what we're going to try to do is get over here to this, take a look at this golden record. Oh, and it's, if you take it, you can actually take it, and let's take a look. and you can also play it apparently. So you can look at the various buttons, what they all mean. So it needs to be turned on, so we turn it on. You can determine the speeds of 78 or 33. And I'm gonna speed this up because it'll talk about how there's subliminal messages in there. Like, and you have to play it at this speed, that speed, reverse, forward, backward. So I'm definitely gonna speed this part up because I spent a while here trying to make sure I got every combination until I saw the same message appearing multiple times. So by fiddling with this in various forms of forward, backwards, different speeds, you'll get a message about you didn't know if Golden Records could actually play records. You'll get a message about getting porn for the best pound, whatever it was. And you also get a message about how it says just say yes, which is the anti-campaign of Nancy Reagan's just say no. So it's another dated reference. If you don't get the just say no reference, Google it. And I'm just going to fast forward the rest because I don't know how many messages you can get out of this. All right, so we take the record. And we can see over there is our guy. And he says, hey, come on over. I got the call about you wanting to book a recording. And it says there, the last time you were in the studio was to make a record for Lucy Larry 4, which is another reference to the missing game. So in here, he says, okay, I've got a track, go. And you can play whatever you want 2 times in a row. Doesn't matter how well you do, how well you think you're doing. If you've actually got it, after the third time or after the second time, it'll just autoplay, and Patti will actually take over and play. So once Patti plays, it moves way smoother and actually sounds good. So he says, come listen to the playback with me. And again, there's 2 ways to get what you need out of this area also. You can continue to talk with him and basically flirt your way through it, which I did the first time, and then I realized I still had the champagne, so I went back just to see if the champagne would do anything after I talked to him and got it one way. And it turns out the champagne is actually, I think, the better way to go, because when you talk and just have sex with him, you get the recording that you need, but he also gets a recording of you guys having sex that he turns into a music hit. Whereas if you use the champagne, you just get him drunk. And it goes over to Agent Smith at the FBI. It says, what is she doing? I don't know, but she's dilated like 3 centimeters, which is implying she's had sex. So here I am when I realized that I also had champagne to try the champagne. And it actually is beneficial because you just get them sloshed. And again, it's nothing you do. She just automatically starts pouring champagne until he passes out. And then now you get a different thing about consuming too much fluid, because it turns out after he passes out, Patti finishes off the bottle. And ironically, so Larry's driver is a girl named Bobby, B-O-B-B-I. For Patti, it's a male driver named Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y. And we cut back to Larry, who has an inappropriate leak in the boat. And it turns out Larry just had a wet dream. Da-da-da-da. Crash. So here's a cigarette machine. If you don't know what a cigarette machine is, you know, Google it. So from the cigarette machine, you basically just get coin. So up on that billboard, we get a number to call. Now I'll say this, I did make a mistake here that I'm gonna have to end up restoring to this point. And I believe I could have actually just, when I realized it, just got out, drove back there, but restoring it was gonna be the quicker way to go. So a little gymnastics, but what we want is from the card we know it's the dental place. So we're gonna head up there. If you talk to her, she's like, nope, no appointments, go away. So you can look at the magazines, but I do like the joke that says you don't need to know what happened in 1969 because the magazines are always out of date. There's a little cloth thing right there, or a doily, however you want to call it. If you try to sit in the different chairs, they each give you a different message of, no, this one's too big, this one's too hard, and then this one's just right. So if you sit there, nothing happens. Like, you just sit there. But the reason that chair is there is actually to use the phone later. And basically talk to her, say, you know what, I really need a dentist, and she asks you a series of questions. Just make sure you say you have insurance and you don't know what malpractice is, and I think everything's good. And basically she gives you an appointment like 10 years in the future. If you sit down and wait, again, nothing happens, so she just tells you to go away. Try to show her stuff, show her the card, nothing happens. So what we're going to try is, if you put that around your head, even though she's looking right at you, you just knock on it and says, oh wow, it looks like you're in pain. We'll get you in there right away. And in comes Chi-Chi. What you want to do is look at Chi-Chi. And you can see she has that one button. If you just keep clicking on it, it'll actually expose her breasts. And you'd think the undress is what you want, but no. What you want is the little hand, and you just keep doing it, and you see her breasts. And she says, hey, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be me. And then she winks at you. So you think you keep doing it to basically work her up, but she just keeps repeating the same thing. And as you talk to her, she basically says, you know what, she's an undocumented worker, and she says she would do anything to basically get a green card. So now we know we need a green card, which, as you can see in my inventory, I don't have a green card. I have nothing here that will help her. So there's nothing in the trash can. If you try, there's no green card in there, like some kind of other Lucy Larry game. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna look at the boards. So we got the limo. Nothing inside the limo for a green card, so let's get back out. Like, there's no green card hidden inside the limo. So what we're gonna do is look at all the signs. And there you go. It's that sign there. It says, did you misplace your green card? Give us a call and we'll deliver one. Just make sure you pay us. And they basically talk to you in Spanish, and Larry assumes that this is the first time Larry's calling, so he's like, yeah, I need a limo ride. So what we're gonna do is go outside. And right there you can see there is a thing, an envelope, and it's a green card. So now we have the green card. So let's just speed through this. And now we're caught up to where we were before I realized I didn't have the green card. And she says, do you have any ideas that would work? And you say, well, if something pops up, I'll let you know. And this is like the one time where it actually doesn't automatically take the inventory item from you. So you take the green card and you give it to her, and she says, you've made me the happiest man, does a little jigaloo dance here. And now the problem is, I haven't set it to record yet. So now we're going to do this whole thing, and I realize it. So let's go back, do this all over again, and make sure I set the recorder once I'm inside, or right before I go inside. So now I've turned it on before I've given her the green card, and now we should be good to go. And then a few minutes later, in the gymnastic area, we see Larry failing at everything. So now we have to go back inside, use the phone, at which point Larry sits in the chair. You dial the same number for the limo service that you have for this area. And then we cut back over to the elected official who says a lot of blah, 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 exploitation of miners and miners, as in the diggers. And yep, just make sure that everything happens the way it should. The traditional American way, blah, 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 give me the suitcase. So now we're going to fly back to Los Angeles. Get the boarding pass, get the card. And it tells you, because I did leave it on, I didn't turn it off afterwards, that the battery is drained. I'm not even sure if we need to charge it in order to go back, because when you fly back to LA, they're going to be able to view the tape anyway. But let's just try to charge it anyway. Alright, so we are flying back. Things are looking good. And Larry begins to dream. And then it cuts over to Patti. And now it starts going over, let's see everything that you found. So it basically goes through all the evidence that you found. And he says, I have a little souvenir for you. It's the brazier guns that we see when Patti first goes into the office. And we cut back to Larry, and hey, it's not a dream. The airplane is about to crash. And so Larry goes through some things, such as like the redhead that he wanted to date way back in life, that he didn't. And he says, loudspeaker comes on with, hey, does anyone have any flight experience? And Larry says, well, I've flown a flight simulator on a game before. And he says, what seems to be the issue? Oh, nothing. The contract for the pilot is over. So essentially you just have to click a bunch of random buttons until it basically says the plane autopilots itself, because you've clicked enough of the right buttons. And then it says a big, you did it, Larry. And it takes several attempts to try to land the plane. And eventually, Larry does land the plane. And everyone's there to see Larry the hero who helped save the plane from crashing. Get a couple of huzzas and a hip hip hooray. Then the phone rings and they say, Mr. Laffer, it's for you. It's the president. And we can see it's clearly a reference to Mr. Bush, who was a US president in the past. Probably at the time this game came out. And he says, I'm going to host a big dinner, want you at the White House. You'll be the big hero of the week. And he says, I look forward to meeting you. And he says, oh, you know, I won't be there. I am going to go fish. I'm going to have a meeting. Nice talking to you. Bye. And ironically, none other than Passionate Patti is at this big dinner. Since she's been working with the FBI, she's actually going to perform at the dinner. And in walks Larry. And then you recognize each other and say, oh, it's so great. What happened to you? Last thing I remember, we were together on a deck overlooking. Oh, sweet dear, you really don't remember a thing, do you? It's a long story that perhaps I'll tell you someday. Patti, since I had a little trouble finding a date tonight, would you mind being my date? She says, oh no, that'd be great. And then she says, come on, Inspector Desmond. We're going to go sit at the table. And she introduces him, and Desmond growls and says, charmed. So apparently Desmond and Patti take the last two remaining seats, and they say, scoot over. Secret agent basically brings a fold chair that you sit next to the vice president and talk to him. And then a familiar face begins talking to Patti. It's none other than the sinister Mr. Big. And he says, I'm testifying in the court, really? And his eyes are clearly locked on something specific. He says he wants to make the airwaves clean again. But then he makes a reference here in a minute where he's humming a love song that Patti seems to remember. And he keeps humming it, and Patti keeps trying to remember where she's heard that song before. And then at the mention of the sexiest video, Larry pops up, and then he says, oh, don't be so formal, call me Mr. Big, call me Julius. And then that's when Patti realizes who he is, Julius. You scoundrel, you've been humming the love theme that I wrote for the soundtrack of Larry 4. That song was never published. Of course, I see it now, Big. You're the man who hired me to create the music, then erased the floppies to keep from paying me. And that's why we don't have a leash to Larry 4. And he pulls a gun. Larry thinks it's for the vice president, dives on the vice president, who shoves his face into the stew. Patti uses, you go to your inventory, click on the guns, and Patti uses the bra gun on Mr. Big, and everything is done. So Patti and the vice president begin talking, and Larry thinks he's part of that conversation about flying to a cabin. This whole weird thing happens where there's miscommunication between the three of them, but they end up all three going to the cabin. And off they go. And so it seems all your work videotaping those girls was for naught. The producer decided to simply audition girls. Went on to become a mega hit. Congress never did get around to passing the bill. It's been stuck in committee. After a lengthy trial, Julius Big was found innocent. It seems everything that you did in this game was completely pointless. Risk reverse. Continues making CDs, but or continues making tape records, but in the time of CDs they don't work out. Freaking PC Hammer becomes this VJ for being nude. Piano bars continue, but all is not lost. That's it. Overall, I did not enjoy Larry 5, which you can probably tell in the tone of when I was talking about it. It didn't have that same fun feeling that Leech Larry 1, 2, and 3 had. And so that's it. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. I tried not to be overly negative about the game. There was so much about this game that I just did not enjoy. As I said, it felt like an interactive game in the terms of you don't have any. It didn't feel like an adventure game. It just felt like you're in this game just clicking on inventory items. And sometimes you didn't even have to click on inventory items. They would just take it from you just by talking to them. I did like the fact that there were multiple ways to get past some of the things. That was kind of a cool aspect to this game. But overall, by the time I finished Lucid Larry 5, I felt like one of Larry's women. I just wasn't fulfilled. Felt like something was missing. So I guess that's maybe the point of Larry 5, to put you in the perspective of the women that Larry's been with and to feel hollow and empty and ugh. Anyway, I know that Shoot Larry 6 is next, and hopefully it is, according to my memory, a fun game because it goes back to having to figure out things, gather things, make sure things work versus just a click-through game that Larry 5 was. And I also think I like the graphics better in Larry 6 because it feels like it goes back to that older style. I actually didn't like the graphics in Larry 5 overall. So that'll be it. I'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening if you got this far.